Flutespace, a platform created to share interesting stories related to life as a flutist and discovering inspiring content in form of a podcast. You can catch up with us on our Instagram at theflutespace, and you can listen to our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. All these links can be found in our link tree in the description. If you want to support us, you can buy us a coffee on buymeacoffee.com/theflutespace.
So in today's episode, we were pleased to talk to the flutist Frederic Sánchez, and it was very, very inspirational.
Yes, he talked to us about motivating students, differences of playing with a golden head joint and a wooden head joint.
Also about finding a blending sound in a woodwind section.
Making a flute print.
Yes.
If we made the word flutier, let's make another word. Let's make flute print. A lot of tips, a lot of really useful, nice things for everyone listening.
He also played the flute and showed us how to find the sweet spot in your embouchure, and I think it's just very useful for everyone to listen to him talking.
You can look up his online flute studio and some of his recordings. And of course, follow him on Instagram and all of his social media to keep updated with his amazing videos. Welcome, Frederic, to our podcast. We're really excited to have you and to talk to you about flute and all of the things. Let's start with the question. You studied in many places, in Basel, and how was it for you? What did it bring you?
Okay, well, first of all, thanks a lot for the really kind invitation. I mean, for me, it's always a pleasure to speak about flute. That's basically what I'm doing all the time. And but I think it's very healthy to do so, like that we speak about our experiences, not only, let's say, about what we play and even the professional life, that it's something that maybe we can see more clearly, but also what it's a little bit behind from that. So then, thanks a lot for also your invitation and the job that you are doing. I think this is always really very interesting that we are doing a little bit more than just playing our stuff. I think this is quite cool. Then, having said that, and answering to your first question, really, I don't know. I mean, I would say that maybe there is people that they have like a plan, but I really always think that you are following things that you get inspired by somehow. And in my case, it was like I met teachers that I was like musically attracted to, and then I just followed that. I mean, and somehow it happened naturally. For instance, I could have ended up studying in Freiburg as well, because at that time, Felix Rengli, he was teaching there. And there he told me that maybe he had like more places than in Basel. But then luckily he had like some opening in Basel, and then it was also possible in Basel. But of course it was not a thing about the city. And for instance, in that case, and I loved him because my former teacher, that was Vicent Prats from the Orchestra de Paris, that he was teaching in Barcelona, where I'm originally from, he invited him for a masterclass, and then I really liked him. And of course, he's very well-known flute player and etc. But also, I really liked him. I also met other great flute players that I admire to the day, even. But I don't know, he was like the one I felt like much more attracted, musically speaking, and then that's why I decided to go later with him. And of course, every teacher adds something to you, and you cannot compare, because it's like totally has no sense to do it. And also it's like because everyone has some very special thing to share. When they are honest, that's when they are very good teachers. When you are honest, that's a good thing. And you try not to hide, let's say, things that you want to share. When you do this, then it works. And then all of them added like amazing things and very concrete things. That if I speak about concretely what is this, then I will be like the whole podcast only speaking about what are those things. From Vicente or from Felix or even from my first teacher, that I had when I was even a young kid, when I was 12. Because actually I think that those are the most crucial teachers. Because we are always speaking about, I don't know, Felix Rengli, which is great, of course, and I have all my admiration for him and my friendship to him and everything. But I think that the most crucial ones are the ones we have when we are, I don't know, 12, 13, something like this. Or even before, But because from my first teacher, that was Jaume Curtadellas in Barcelona, I really learned like how to play a phrase, let's say, beautifully done and with a nice phrasing and with a nice sound. So I was just hearing. Then for me, like to play with some elegance, like this kind of concept, like, okay, what is elegant? What is to play some articulation with resonance? This kind of concepts, I knew when I was 14. What was it, you see? So then, I don't know, it's something that you learn, and I was very lucky to have like a teacher like this one. And that's it. So then I could be speaking about this the whole podcast, but maybe you have other questions.
Yes, so speaking about teaching, you also teach a lot, and we wanted to know what kind of teacher do you want to be?
Oof, that's a very good question, because normally people, they always ask about what do you teach, but not what kind of teacher you want to be. I mean, it's very complicated to answer to this question, because in fact what I would like to be is like the best teacher that would help every student, and this is very difficult because every student is different. And I also admit very honestly that there can be students which whom you can have like a very, let's say, easy or natural connection, because yes, personally you are more close, and others that maybe can be, let's say, more difficult because you find more, let's say, more space between the characters, no? But I think that's a challenge. That's what I really love about teaching, that you always have to somehow investigate much more. It's not about flute at all sometimes. It's really about how you say things and in what moment this person is, and a lot of things that are, for me, very, very interesting. So what teacher I would like to be? I mean, the one who can hit the sweet spot and the key that it makes that the student really first is motivated, because I think that we are all interested, but motivated is another thing. Interested we are all when we want to be professional musicians, but sometimes we can lose our motivation. So first that we can keep this motivation with the student, and then that you are saying really the things that this person needs, which is completely radically different that maybe the student that comes in the next hour needs, no? And this is what I would like to be. I mean, when with students this happens and they tell you, because normally they are also honest, because it's like a honest relationship that gets established. When this happens, it's the best compliment I can ever get. It's not that suddenly the student has like improved a lot, or we got this sound and it's amazing how you play now. It's like, okay, yeah, I understood this, or suddenly they maybe play without fear, something. When this happens, I'm really like, okay, I'm really, that's the best compliment I can get. And in the end, I don't do it for the compliment. I do it because I think that's the reason why you are teaching. That you can help in that way. And and that's why I also like a lot teaching, because in the end you can add something else than only playing. Playing, it's amazing. You can make people have a lot of feelings. You can express yourself with things that are beyond words. That's great. That's amazing. That's crazy, interesting. But teaching, you can add something else. You can contribute to the development of someone. And somehow you feel really like, hey, what I do really has a sense, because I can transmit it to others as well. Not only playing in a concert, but also speaking about what we are doing in the, let's say, in the backstage, no?
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's a whole progress. I mean, and process in the backstage.
And it's super rewarding also to see how much impact you can have in another person. And like, if you keep thinking about how can I really motivate this person, and then you see it works, that's amazing.
Kind of related to that, I've been thinking a lot about feedback from like students towards teachers, and what kind of feedback would you like to get, or do you get, that you appreciate?
Yes, I was saying that a little bit before. I mean, for me, the best feedback that I can get from students is that really they are somehow like, okay, I saw that it has sense, so I could understand that this, what you told me, really was like something that kept me thinking later after the lesson, or that really I could see that is the beginning of a path to really investigate in that direction, or simply you made me understand, or you helped me to understand something, because sometimes it's something so concrete when we speak about sound, for instance, that it's very difficult even to explain with words, and even with what you play and what you sound, maybe it's also not so easy. The other person has to understand how it sounds in her or his sound, no? And I mean, the feedback for me, the most great I can have is really in that direction. It's not, I have to say, it's not the results, because results can come, but not necessarily always. I mean, you see, I mean, I think we are sometimes obsessed about good results, and it's normal. It is normal. We all like to have good results, but I think that the process is the most important thing always, because then the results can come, but maybe not always. But the process is the most important thing. So I'm very happy when I can see that people is happy with the process, because this also helps for the motivation, because then you have your path. Sometimes people can really have anxiety because the only, let's say, path they have is like this, let's say, like this kind of objective result, and maybe it doesn't come in that way that you are only expecting. It can come in other ways, or in other places that you were not expecting. So I think that the most important thing really is like this process, that it keeps, let's say, forever. Because even if you are playing then your concerts and you have like much more calm down situation, if you want, I mean, if you don't have this kind of process with your own things and with your own voice and what you are researching, you can really get bored of what you are doing. And I think this is one of the problems of a lot of classical musicians, unfortunately. I think that the most healthy ones are the ones who are always seeking something. And seeking something doesn't mean that you get frustrated if you don't get it. It means that you are always like curious to try things, or this or the other, or this head joint, or blah blah blah, or whatever. It can be in all different moments in your life, can be different things. But I think this is somehow very interesting. Otherwise, you can get somehow this feeling of getting stuck. Also because at some point, let's say that the results can also stop, because maybe you are not doing any more competition. So then maybe the results are other kind of things. Maybe like concerts are working very well, or the audience likes it, blah blah blah. So then in the end, the results always somehow come together with the process. And I think that for me the most important is to enjoy this process, actually.
How do you actually try to motivate then your students? I mean, because I think a lot of people know that problem of, I don't have any objective proof of me doing progress. As you were saying, like, okay, for example, maybe you don't win a competition or these kind of things. How can you, and then maybe you doubt, am I doing process or not doing process? I think a lot of people have these problems. And how do you deal with that if your students have like a feeling of being stuck and not very motivated?
That's a very good question, because that's really the problem. that's really the most problematic thing that can happen sometimes with students or with the musical world. As I was saying before, even with a lot of professional musicians, because it's also real life. At some point, it's like 1 week and then maybe another week, etc. I'm just speaking now about professional musicians, but even for students, it can be also the same. Like you would do a competition or something, and maybe the result is not there, and then again it's not there. Okay. For me, it's very important somehow that, how to say, this is a little bit weird to say, because you have to be idealistic but pragmatical at the same time. Because if you are totally idealistic, you are never reaching that goal. It's a little bit like you are platonic, philosophically speaking, and maybe, the idea, let's say the perfect idea is not in this world. So then you are not getting never that, and then maybe you can get frustrated. But if you follow, let's say, something that you have in your, let's say, head speaking about sound, that is something, because I always have in my head something I would like to do that I cannot do. But at the same time, I know that maybe I cannot do it now. So I accept that maybe it will not sound as I want. In fact, I always accept it never sounds actually as I want it. But I also accept it sounds good. This is very difficult point to find, because if you get too much to the idealistic point, maybe you are very motivated to achieve something, but then you can be very frustrated because you don't achieve that, because maybe you want to play like a amazing singer with these details in the consonants and you cannot do it maybe so much with the flute. So then maybe you can get frustrated. So what I would suggest for that is to try to find this middle point that is very personal. And then I try to analyze that. Especially, I have to say that it's very related with the sound and the details in the sound. It is something that I experience a lot with students. If you speak about these kind of things and you try to somehow make them speak about their musical ideas, they have much more musical ideas than what they can do with the flute. This is something I always notice. So then I try to motivate them to really try to do as much as possible ideas that they have in their brain with the flute. It's like a little bit, I think it happens to all of us. Like, and now I'm speaking, and at least in my case, my brain goes like 3 times faster than what I can speak. And I think it happens, I would say, to everyone, no? So with the flute, it happens the same, I think. And I think that we can learn from ourselves, because our imagination has much more to say than an instrument. This is just an instrument, and the word is very good put. It's an instrument. It's a tool we use, to do something. And therefore, sometimes it's imperfect as well. So it's out of tune sometimes, and all these kind of things, because it's like this. So we need to learn how to compensate that. But at the same time, we need to accept that it's not perfect. We are also not perfect. This is what I find this balance. But I think that if we try to hear our imagination, for sure we are motivated. Because this is why we are studying an instrument, no? I think, in at least in my case, and I think that most of the musicians, we all play an instrument, and I would say it's not to show ourselves, not to show that we can play very fast staccato. I mean, we should, and it's very nice to play fast staccato. I like it. I like to do. Yeah. I like to do it. But the thing is that this is not why I studied flute.
No, it's true.
Yeah, it's very important to remind ourselves, like, where were we coming from? Like, where was the motivation in the beginning coming from?
Yes. I mean, it happened to me a very good example. Like, when I sing and when I give lessons, or when I practice, I sing a lot, or I sing a lot in general. It happens that I realize that I sing very beautiful ideas that sound very bad, because I'm not a singer. So it's like, okay. I mean, if I was a singer, maybe I could sing very well, but the ideas are there. So the quality, it's much better when I play the flute, because I know how to play the flute better than singing. But the idea sometimes not, because it's an instrument and it's not, let's say, so natural as when you sing, because you have also like this these kind of things that you can do much more naturally speaking, or some effects that you can do imitating with the voice. So that motivates me, because then I try to imitate these kind of things, for instance. And even I have to say that sometimes it's not even linked with the voice. Sometimes it's something that I know that it's like some like an image, like a sound image I have in the brain. Then I try to imitate that, like maybe that I got that from a violin, you see, or from a piano or something. So I think this is what I would say always the students when they are not so motivated, is like that they even listen to much more music, that they really try to get inspired by other instruments, and that they try to really hear the artist that is behind. I think that most of the time we are stuck because in the end, we always think that we are flute players, and we should not be flute players only.
Yes, that's true. Well, it's very nice to listen to you giving those tips. And we were wondering, how did you actually start or come up with the idea to do those videos on recording tips?
I mean, first of all, it happened basically in the pandemic. Yeah, because I mean, how to say it's something that you end up doing, and there are a lot of reasons why you do, but in the end, it's just because you have the need to do it somehow. During the pandemic, of course, we were at home, we were much more free, but also I was very concerned because I could remember myself when I was a student, and I was then like thinking, oh my God, I mean, if I was now studying, and I was studying my master's, for instance, now, and then I just made the effort to go to Basel in my case, or to Antwerp, or to somewhere, or to Amsterdam, and then comes this pandemic, and then what I'm doing, I mean, and then I'm losing my studies somehow, and I cannot, have lessons with my teachers because it's not allowed, and I am at home stuck, and etc. And then at some point, I was like, well, I think that maybe it could help to people to don't lose this motivation, or to see, that we are all in the same situation, and also that I can contribute somehow, like giving something to those students. And in fact, in the beginning, I also, like, I'm speaking like in the hard moment of the pandemic. I even started to do to offer like free lessons to students who wanted, like, because at that time it was like, I don't know, at least that you can get some motivation or something. Then of course later not, because it was like, okay, I started to don't have again time, and then of course it became another time, like, let's say, a regular situation, and also students started to, let's say, have their lessons as well with their teachers, or online adapting, or also like live again with restrictions or something. But it was like in the hard months, let's say that spring of 2020. But then I also saw that a lot of people were writing, saying that they really liked a lot, to see this, because they got motivated, and they learned actually like a lot. And I remember that other flute players, they were also doing. And when I see those flute players also doing that, for instance, one example for me is Egor Kin from Berliner Philharmoniker, like the solo piccolo. I learned actually a lot of things from little things he's saying. I mean, of course, that's not a lesson. That's just like some small glimpse, you say, of this. But sometimes it's like, oh, that's really clever. I mean, that thing that he said is very clever. That you do this whistle tone, this, and I try. Ah, man, it's so cool. And it's like, it's somehow, you can see condensated something that this person has been thinking maybe for a lot of practice sessions. And then sometimes what I'm just doing is that I'm practicing, or I'm giving a lesson, and then some idea comes to my mind, or just I walked with that with a student, and it's like, I think that this very concrete detail of how to focus this sound in this G sharp, for instance, or I don't know, or how to warm up in that way to create this sound in a easier way. Okay, I'm just giving it because it's just a thought, you see. Maybe it can be helpful for someone, maybe for others not, but I just give it, you see, because it's not a secret. It's just something I think, and I think for other people can be as well, let's say, interesting. That's why I started to do it. And also I saw that then it's like a circle. So then you do this, then you see that especially students are like very somehow interested or motivated. Then you also get more motivated because you see people like, then you do more, etc., etc., etc. And also another thing that I have to say that I like it a lot about the videos in general is not only the tips one. So I have like two basic kind of videos. One is like the tip ones, which is like very concrete about flute and etc. and so on. It's totally focused for let's say students or all the professionals that maybe are like, nice. So I'm trying this warm-up exercise.
Which I have to say, it's very handy and also incredible how we've all seen videos of yours and of other flutists and have actually incorporated it in our practice.
And it's super nice because it feels like, just like helping, like that you're helping us out kind of with like the things that we're stuck with. Exactly. I mean, sometimes you just need, as you say, like one small hint, let's say, like, maybe think about whatever, your vibrato more, or this for having a projecting sound, for example.
Yeah.
And it's super nice.
I mean, we are all struggling with these kind of topics, no? And then it's like, I don't know. That's why it's like, okay, I give it. Let's say maybe. I mean, so that's the best compliment I can have. This is why I kept doing that, because I started to have like this kind of like circular feedback from people, and it's like, oh, then I do more because then people like blah blah blah, and then of course you also get motivated to do it because you feel that you are something that somehow, let's say, has a value or that it contributes to something, no? And then this is one of the videos, which like the tips one like this, and then the other ones is like just playing, and then is why, and then I often think about that. It's like, but why playing some random things like in rehearsals or like this, no? And for me, it's very clear. It's because I know that I reach people, and my goal as a musician is that people hear me. That's it. But it's not that they hear me because I want that they hear me. No, I want to arrive to people with my music. And I know that if I'm playing, let's say, some fluting in a symphony, which I find it's nice, or even sometimes it's very funny because I'm sharing things from pieces that people don't know, but actually it's very nice solo. And it's like, do you know what is there from? And then people that do their guesses or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but actually in that piece there is this nice solo. Maybe you can go and hear it, no, or something. But anyway, this that it's just playing, for me it's very quick thought, and it's like, yes, because then in the concert maybe there is, let's say, 1,000 people, and that will be a full house already. And of course the concert experience, you cannot, let's say, compare to what it is like a video on Instagram or on social network. It's another thing, it's another format. But it's true that then more people hear to your music, and this is, I think, what any musician should want, no? I mean, for me, I compare always like, for instance, if I was a writer, for instance, my goal would be to write something I think it is interesting, but also that a lot of people read to it, because I would like that people would read what I wrote. So it's simply this. So this is what I'm using the social network why, like to do something that maybe can be helpful, and also like to reach more people, because I think that's what we should also want as musicians.
And about the second type of videos, I really appreciate you kind of reaching out to people listening, to ask them, oh, what does this music remind you of? Or, well, specifically if it's a piece.
Yeah.
But also, what does this music bring in you?
Yeah.
I think it's incredible to hear everyone's opinions and thoughts, and to kind of make a puzzle. So then for you also to see the piece differently, maybe, I don't know.
And also it's nice to spread the repertoire that maybe it's not so known, as you said.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I really think that the social networks have like somehow a very good side, but as always, everything in life also have a very dangerous one. I mean, let's face it. I mean, come on. I mean, on Instagram or TikTok, we can lose a lot of time. You see, it's like this. It's totally like this, and also things are somehow fake, and it's like this, and people can only show, let's say, like their best side, and all of this, and with all these filters and etc. This I totally understand, and I agree with that. But at the same time, it's a very interesting tool if you use it, let's say, for doing something interesting. In my case, I think that social networks is just this. It's social. That's something that you do social. So then it's just like, for me, it's like sharing something that I like to do. It's my profession, but also it's like my passion. So it's like, if I share, then I want to see what other people think, and this, okay, please, is what does this music describe to you? And then you read what they say, and etc., or yes, about some tips. Then some people even they answer to things, and then it's like, true. Then I tried the things that people reply to me. So I think that things always have a good and a bad part, and the interesting thing is try to use the good one. I mean, it's
for sure, it's something very inspirational. I mean, also for you to share it, but also for the others to see it. And we wanted to ask, which flutists inspire you the most?
A lot of them, of course. But I have to say, first of all, that I have to say, and this is nothing against flute players. I have to say, but but I mean, it's also like it's important. I mean, I get much more inspired by other instruments than flute, and maybe this is yes, yeah. No, but it's not. It's just because I'm also a flute player, and then I know all the little things that we have with the flute. You see, and then sometimes it's like somehow with other instruments you are more like open-minded because it's like okay, just give me sound and just give me, yes, that's it. You see, and then with the flute it can happen. It's like this, no, some little thing is there, and because the C sharp is sharp and etc. You see, and then it's like, but then, what are the flute players I valorate the most? Or I like the most, which are a lot of them, are precisely those ones that make me
yes,
forget.
not so critical with your ear, maybe.
Yeah.
That's it. So then, I don't have any favorite, let's say. Because, Paud is amazing because of the sound he has.
Yes.
It's amazing because you hear to him and you forget about this. You forget that, this is hard or this is something. He just plays the music, and I think this is the goal we should all let's say try to achieve. And also I think that's why he's very inspirational. For instance, Paud, but also Jacot, Sébastien Jacot has this. When I hear to him, I somehow forget what flute he's playing or whatever his wood or not. If it's gold, you see, it's like you just hear what he's doing, and I think this is what it's interesting. Also, Jubin Kim, for instance, has this, like he plays and always he's posting a video. Somehow, it's very strange that I'm not scrolling. So somehow I get there to hear because it's interesting what he's proposing playing, because he's somehow above the instrument. And this is something that happens to me also with flutists that are not so, let's say, well known. Now I named 3 of those that are like, let's say, like rock stars of the flute. But of course, Julien Boudimand aussi. I mean, we can say so many of those, like Sylvia Caredo, Julia Tourelle, like this. Of course, but because I think that they all have in common that they play a little bit above their instrument, and this is like what I'm trying to do as well when I play. You see, when I achieve a little bit that, I'm super happy because I forgot about my instrument I just played. And this is a very good feeling. What happens, no? I mean, this is what I try all the time. That's my goal. But also, it happens with other flute players which are not so well known. That they achieve this. And for instance, I don't know, like now this Nicole Esposito. Sometimes she posts some videos, and sometimes it's like actually I like to hear. It's very nice. You see what I'm and so they're well known. I mean, I'm saying Nicole Esposito, she's well known, but it's like not. Let's say like I'm saying like these big names like this. So and sometimes I'm like really surprised that sometimes with of course hearing students that they are posting their exams. And then suddenly I hear like on Instagram it's like some student like just played her or his exam, and it's like. Wow, so nice, you see, and I just hearing that, and it's like, well, you see, I mean, this is the goal. I mean, it's simply this. For me, it's when someone plays and makes you forget that he's playing or she's playing the flute. That's always something like very enjoyable.
Yeah, and I think it's something we all strive for.
Yes, this is definitely.
Well, you played in many chamber music groups, and we wanted to talk to you about your approach in creating a group sound, blending with the woodwind section.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's not a secret thing. I mean, it's just somehow like acoustics, actually. And of course, it depends a lot on the sound of the players. And therefore, you have to be very flexible because there are, let's say, over players who maybe they play more direct or others that they play more dark. So that affects, and maybe then if you want to blend with some over player who plays more direct, you can also focus more the sound, like more like, I don't know. If you want to play like unison, maybe you have to play with this kind of sound and then it will work better. But there are others that you can play much more. Because it's much more dark sound. So maybe you can use as basic sound or one or the other. So I just don't know, you can appreciate with the headphones, but it's a little bit this. But it's not only this. I mean, that's like, let's say, matter of taste. Happens the same with clarinet players. Of course, no vibrato. Of course, you can play a little bit more unfocused, like more, not airy, but yeah, more relaxed somehow. But not always, because there are clarinet players that play actually very focused, and then you can play, yeah, cool and relaxed, very warm, but yeah, with this projection, and it will work as well. But you have to be flexible, and with others who play very dark, then you can really go for very loose kind of sound, and it will work then when you play unison with them. But generally speaking, in the wind section or wind quintet, which is like the reduction, the thing that happens with the wind quintet is that the sound is given by the bassoon. So then you have this frame. So then if you want that it sounds nice, you have to put all the sounds into the bassoon one, which is mixed as well with the horn, because normally they play all together or with the quint, with the fifth there, or even unison. So they are creating somehow like a mixed sound, like a horn bassoon most of the time. So first of all, the hornist has to sacrifice like this mega loud orchestral sound to adapt to the basis that the bassoon is giving, and then all the others need to somehow not play very pointy. You have to play very sacrificing upper harmonics. Only when there is something that you want that comes up, like maybe like a solo or something, then you can use much more brilliant or this much more sound. I don't know how to explain.
Well, so basically you mean that it should be like a rounder, darker sound, right?
It should be very dark, yes, but it should be inside the bassoon. So for that's crucial what the bassoonist is offering. Because if it's a very narrow sound in the bassoon, it's going to be very difficult to create a round sound of the group, because already from the basis you have like very like this. So then you cannot make it like this, no? But it has to be like this, the sound. So, and this actually, it's a little bit the complicated thing about the wind quintet. Because the bassoon can do it, but it's not a contrabass or a cello, you see, who has even much more resonance, no? And also, sometimes what happens with the wind quintet is that the bass is always played by the bassoon. So sometimes it can happen that if you want to have a very homogeneous sound, you always have like somehow this kind of sound. And this is complicated. I mean, to get this variety of sounds is very challenging, and it's something that is needed to work very hard to the extremes, so that the bassoon player can play even much more big as she or he will do, and then adapt to that, or even going to the extremes in pianissimo as well. So it's something that is very important to develop, because otherwise you can only have blue. Then maybe it's a perfect blue, which is very in tune, but it's all the time blue, you see. And then, of course, another thing that it depends on the players you are playing, because as I was saying before, so some of them, they play more dark, others more direct, and then that's a matter of taste, and then you have to adapt. That's more speaking about the orchestral, let's say, section. But the basics a little bit are the same. In the orchestra, it's the second bassoon who is very important. It's who most of the time has the, let's say, the fundamentals, and yeah, I mean, he has to, or she has to give, you see, and give in that way, etc., etc. And it's very important. But in the end, it's just to hear. And you have to hear what comes from the lower frequencies, and then you have to adapt to that. And this is why most of the times we need to somehow sacrifice a little bit our sound. And I think this is something that sometimes is not well understood, and this is why things, even if it's in tune, is not working. I mean, you cannot go and play, I don't know, like this. I mean, maybe if it's a solo, you can do. Maybe if it's a solo, but if you play this way, like section excerpts, that's not going to work, definitely, no, because it's out of the frame somehow.
And if you could suggest to listen to one wind quintet, like a piece, what would it be?
I mean, there are a lot of very good options, and I don't want to say the quintet I had. I don't want to make my own publicity. I mean, I don't want to make own publicity. But for instance, there is this Carillon ensemble who they do a very, very amazing job, and they play by heart, and it's very enjoyable to hear them. No, then you can also hear the quintet pentaètre they are doing in Montreal. They are doing also very interesting arrangements and very, very nice job. And yes, of course, you can hear like the recordings we had. I mean, if people want to hear, you can go hear the recordings we had with the quintet I was playing at that time, or even now that they are playing. That even when I'm not playing more in the group, but you can go here because they have a very, very personal sound. So, and then also if you hear different quintets that they sound good, you will also notice that there is different sonority. And that's very interesting because that's why there is not an universal law, because the players, they play different. And if you only change one player in the group, already like the whole building needs to readapt. I mean, the sound will change. It's like this. You can, of course, follow, let's say, a philosophy, if you want, of playing, yes. But when a player changes, it's like in an orchestra. I mean, if the solo flute changes, it will sound different. It's because the sound of people is always very personal. And this is something I think it's also related with the sound of the flute in generally speaking. I think we should always try to go to search a personal sound. It's like your footprint somehow.
So this is kind of a great segue because we noticed that you play on a wooden head joint. And how did you get to that decision, and what were you searching in your personal sound?
Yeah, I'm not always playing in a wooden head joint. I'm switching from the, let's say, regular 9-carat Muramatsu gold flute, let's say more regular gold flute, to this head joint. And in fact, I would like to, in the future, to buy a wooden flute also, like that I can play with the two of them. I would like to do so, but I'm saving for it. And then, no, but the thing is that also what brought me to this, it was, again, just the curiosity that we were speaking before. Like, you are always like, okay, this and the other thing, and with this kind of, progress somehow, this kind of process, no? And then during pandemics, I was also seeing like this builder, which is Julio Hernandez. It's the Spanish builder who is doing this. He's not Spanish anyway, he's Argentinian, but he lives in Spain now. And then I was in contact with him because he was also posting on internet like some examples of players playing his head joints or pictures and so on. And I was like interested because I always loved wood. But the thing is that I never felt comfortable with the wood I tried. Let's say I was not finding easily this personal sound that you have, this let's say like this footprint you have. I was not finding that easily in the wood. I was finding it with the gold or with the silver. Before I was playing with silver, but not with the wood. And then he sent me some head joints to try, just out of curiosity. And immediately when I tried the one I have, it was like, okay, but there, yes, it sounds with this kind of wooder, darker sound, but still it sounds with the same, let's say, not quality, but the same characteristics that my sound normally has. So if I hear to it when I play, I would recognize myself with the wooden or with the golden one. Not like, yeah, it's you, but it's weird because it sounds like somehow uncomfortable or too much different. No. And then why? I mean, of course, the materials, they give a difference. I mean, the gold is more brilliant. It has more upper harmonics. And that one, it's, let's say, more rounder sound and with more, let's say, lower harmonics like this. But of course, it's important that you feel comfortable. And for me, like let's say that the sweet spot, it's let's say very, very close. So then I can switch between the two of them, and then let's see, let's say it works. And also, it depends on the repertoire as well. I'm not saying that the wooden is for classic or for baroque, because this is a topic. It's not true. I mean, you can play a lot of modern things with wood and it sounds amazing. But it depends. If it's something very orchestral, very symphonic, and I really want to have like a very brilliant sound that goes through like this, then I will simply use the gold because I'm searching for this, and then I use this, no? But if it's a symphony where I want to play really sectional with the other players, or I think that I want to have like very this dark sound and like this. Then with the golden one, I will be like doing this because you can do, but I will be like searching this, and with the let's say with the wood one, it's going to come automatic this. So then I'm going to use it. So it's simply this. Depends on the repertoire. Also, that's why I switch and it changes.
So, and you also use le frec, and we wanted to ask you, how did you start to use it, and also, did you notice a difference immediately, or did it come with time when you used it?
No, I mean the thing is that I know that this topic somehow, and I don't understand really why. Sometimes for some people it's like controversial, and I don't really get why, because it's like, okay, simply try, and if you see there is no difference, then don't buy it. It's so simple as that, you know. I don't know, just simply try. I just always recommend that people try things, because for me it's like the same as if you try a different head joint. I mean, I really think that it will make a difference if it's from another material or the shape is slightly different. Really, it's not the same if the embouchure is oval or it's a little bit more square. Or it has this, for instance, my embouchure has this artificial ivory like riser, that this makes that the sound is more, let's say, focused. This is why I feel like more confident. But then the core of the sound is wood, no? Whatever. The thing is that with the Le Frec, what happened is that I tried with my quintet, with the Azar ensemble, with quintet, like back 5 years ago, something like this, and we were in Germany. And then they arranged a meeting in the shop, and then we were just simply trying. And I was mega skeptical, I have to say. I was really skeptical. I was like, I don't care about that, you see. Even I was thinking, well, this is a loss of time. You see, like, we're going to there, and what does this do? Yeah, whatever. It will not make the big difference, no? And then I have to say that when I tried, particularly in my flute, which is gold, like the silver ones, I was like, you see, this makes not so much difference, blah, blah, blah. But when I tried the 24 karat one, like the gold one, it really made a big difference. And everyone could see, and also I could see, you see. It's not a, let's say, how to say, it's not a, oh my God, now it's unbelievable, and before it's nothing but, no. It's very slightly different, but the sound is basically more brilliant. It has much more upper harmonics, and I can notice that the articulation and the sound is much more concrete, much more, let's say, direct. So then maybe if you are not searching for this, you are not going to like it, because you want precisely the opposite, and it's just a matter of taste or matter of what's your way of playing. But it really makes, let's say, a difference, and my suggestion is just to try it, or to try all the things that can be there available for flute, and then you can decide.
Well, maybe talking about producing sound, so because you're teaching also people from many different backgrounds that came from different schools, and we wanted to ask, how is your approach on embouchure? I mean, do you think there's like one way that is like the right one for everyone, or do you think it is more personal?
I cannot. I mean, if you all know how I play, I cannot. Let's say go for there is an universal way to play. You have to put.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to ask you, because we find it interesting.
I cannot say that because I don't play like this. So I play in a very, let's say, personal angle or way to play. Also, like for instance, Denis Buryakov. No. By the way, it's another flute player.
Yes, we agree.
Forgot before to say, but yeah, okay. But again, you see, for me, I think that it's something very personal, but it has to work with the result. It's simply this. In my opinion, let's say the embouchure is just somehow pointing the air. It's simply this. You can conceive it like as if it was a recorder, and the recorder is biled. This you have it's biled. You have like a tunnel, wooden tunnel, like you just blow and it sounds. So
and
the
air,
yeah,
even if with the recorders they move it, and
of course, and it changes, and obviously. But let's say that the what makes the sound, the production of the sound itself, what makes the air and then it sounds, it's biled into the instrument. So you have to blow on that, no? Then, of course, there are a lot of things that you can do that can make variations. That's for sure, obviously. But here, we are doing that. It's like if you are somehow canalizing the air. You are just throwing the arrow. You see, it's just this. So then, I think it has a lot of importance, but not so much in the end. I mean, yes and no. I mean, it just throwing the air to a place. So far, you don't have so much tensions that you are not getting tired. And that you can be flexible, because it has to be flexible. I'm really not for it has to be stuck all the time, the same embouchure, you need to move. I cannot do it without moving. But of course, I would suggest not to move that it's unstable, because otherwise you don't have, let's say, like this stability. And then, of course, if you're playing, it's like everything like not stable, no? But the embouchure is micro-moving somehow, because the different registers are like in different floors in the elevator. So if you do harmonics, you see that very clearly. So I cannot play, I don't know, like, and in the same moment. It's not possible. It's different steps. Also with the air and a lot of other factors, but the embouchure plays a role there. So that's why Gorkin says this about the whistle tones, blah, blah, blah. It's exactly this, no? So then, for me, I always make a deal with students or something. Okay, yeah, whatever. You can put, so far there are no tensions, that you are not doing so much like this, like smiling too much, let's say, that is tiring, no? That you're, just that it's natural, let's say, passive. That you put the flute, but there is a sweet spot. We all know where that is. And for me, the sweet spot is like, if you can do this, then save it, because that's it, you have it. I mean, if you can do this, that's it. Why are you touching this? I mean, don't touch it, because if I do like this, I cannot. I don't have the.
Yeah.
And of course, from there you can develop. Or whatever you want, and you can. Yeah. Then there are other things. Of course, if you are covering that much, or you are doing.
Yeah.
Too much tension,
it's very clear.
It's too much tension in the lips, and you can hear that. But the thing is that you can hear that. I don't know how to say. This example I was giving, you can hear that it's like, it's like. So for me, it's simply finding the sweet spot. Again, if you play some racket tennis or something,
it can be very
like
personal.
There is a sweet spot in the racket. You need to find, but it's not objective. It's normally it's in the middle, but to some players it's a little bit more there and there. You need to find it, but so far boom, you know it's there. You throw the ball and the contact point. That's why I'm speaking always about the contact point. The contact point should be clear, and if it works, and you can make a pianissimo easy without tensions and very, really like relaxed one, then don't touch it. I mean,
and it's personal for everyone.
Yeah. Then you will develop from there. You will develop. You will open more. You will blah blah blah. You will have flexibility, etc. But that works, so don't touch it. And this is what Vicente Prats in The Bachelor told me. He saw and he was like, okay, maybe we have to change that. No, maybe, I don't know. He was okay, and then he was, can you play this pianissimo? He was like, okay, we are not touching it. Like. That's it. We are not touching it, because if your sweet spot is there, then that's it.
That's great advice, and
it's really nice to listen.
It's a good note to end this section before we move on to fire questions. What is your favorite piece to play with orchestra?
Flutistically, le prélude à l'après-midi d'enfant. Flutistically speaking.
Amazing.
But if it's not because of the flute. I would doubt between Symphonie Fantastique of Berlioz and then maybe Mahler second Symphony of Mahler.
Okay. Great choices. Which book would you recommend?
Oof. Oh, there are so many. This is very difficult. Oh. I love history, so maybe one about history. I read one which was called Sinué the Egyptian, And this is very, very, very cool to learn about the, let's say, like the Egyptian period with all this problem about Akhenaton and this, let's say, one god only between all the other ones, and then blah, blah, blah. All this period was very interesting. And also about, let's say, how to say, medicine in the ancient Egypt. But that's the one that came now. I love history, so I will always say history books.
That's interesting.
What soundtrack would you choose for your life?
I don't know. If I'm very motivated, Gladiator. You see, like that, yeah. Then you are motivated for everything, like this kind of thing. But it depends on the mood, no? I mean,
of course, yeah. Okay, so...
Well, so that was the interview.
Thank you so much for talking to us and answering our questions.
It was very interesting for us to listen also to everything you said.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure. I think it's very, very healthy to do this talk. So thanks a lot for your invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was very inspirational. So we will link...
your everything. Online flute studio, your woodwind quintet, and all these things, so that people can check it out.
In the description of the podcast.
Yes.
And yes,
yeah,
that's it.
Thank you.